Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Chris Scher, that's Robert Hardy, and this is the Citizen Sports Weekly video, second edition. And if you watched last week, we briefly want to know what our format is. It's not too complicated. We're just going to discuss 2 or 3 hot sports topics, and give our opinions on them. And if you want to comment or give us some feedback, you're more than welcome to. So, with that, we'll get right into it. Our first topic is the Syracuse men's basketball team. They lost.
Good timing.
They to be honest with you, they've been lucky.
Yeah.
They've made their own luck, but the old saying goes, you play with fire, you get burned. Well, you're not going to shoot 32% and win too many basketball games. And give Boston College a lot of credit. They're having a tough year. They're in last place in the ACC. They were down by 13 early.
Mm-hmm.
They came back and they
in the
pulled
second
off
half.
in the second half, and they came back. But this isn't really complicated, folks. Syracuse offensively has been horrible. I've been looking at some of their stats since the ACC play started in early January. With the exception of the game against Duke, where they scored 91 points, they haven't scored more than 66 points since early January. They are in an offensive slump. They're just not. They're not taking good shots. The game against NC State, I was really watching closely. Not good shot selection. Not really. I don't know whether they need another pass before they shoot, or whether they're feeling rushed or whatever. But the shot selection has been shoddy, and it shows. And it caught up with them against Boston College. And defensively they played well enough to win. Look, defensively they're great. That 2-3 zone, as advertised, good, better than ever. But if you don't score some points, you're not going to win the basketball game, no matter how good your defense is.
Yeah, this team, there are flaws with this team, but there's flaws with every NCAA team. The thing about men's basketball these days is that there's a lot more parity. Anything can happen when you enter that tournament in March. Anything can happen in these conference tournaments that aren't too far off. So Syracuse has a big game coming up this weekend. They head down to Duke and play there. So that they're going to play at Cameron Indoor. That's going to be a crazy environment.
Oh yeah.
If you thought the Carrier Dome was something for that game, just wait for Cameron Indoor. And again, Syracuse is coming off a loss. It'll be interesting to see how they respond, especially against a much better team.
Right.
There's no way that you should lose to Boston College at home.
Nope.
Boston College entered last night's game with a 6-19 record, I believe, only 2 wins in conference. That's not a team that you should lose to at home, especially when you're #1 team in the country. So, just a major upset there. And but to your point, it's been something that they've gotten away with, and really it was 3 times the charm, because they got away with it against Pitt, all because Ennis saved the day. They really got away with it against NC State, another home game.
Right, they should have lost that game.
Yeah, and then same deal. They come out and they put up another 50-point performance. Not a great shooting night. NC State, that game, I believe they shot 35% from the floor and still won. So these are issues. You need timely shooting. You need to be at least good shooting. Their outside shooting has been non-existent lately, and it's a problem. It is I think for Jim Boeheim, I think he does see that as a concern, that this team, while they're playing good defensively, as you mentioned, the zone has been effective. On the offensive end, they're just lacking consistency. A lot of people will point to C.J. Fair last night. He scored 20 points. But if you look at the stat sheet, it tells a different story. He attempted 23 shots.
Right, 7 of 23.
He missed 16 shots, and a lot of those were questionable shots that he shouldn't have taken. So I think I think that was a good wake up call for them, a much needed wake up call. After some of the games they've played lately, and we'll see if they can rebound Saturday against Duke.
You figure this game has to leave a bad taste in their mouth, and you figure they're going to be motivated to play Duke. But again, let's not overreact here, okay? I think Syracuse fans
they're not done.
We know them. When they win, they're the greatest team in the world, and when they lose, they're horrible. The season's not over with yet. This is still, to me, a Final Four team if they play up to their potential. And that potential is that you saw in the Maui tournament there, the Maui Classic, that you saw at the beginning of the ACC season. if they get their offense fixed, this is a Final Four team easily, okay, with the where they play defense. But that's the key. Good shot selection. They got to really, I mean, the thing is, defenses are trying to slow it down against them. That's what Big Im said last night. Everybody's trying to slow us down, and that's what they're doing. If they can get the transition game going, if Ennis can make things happen like he used to, they'll be okay. I mean, they're probably going to lose at Duke, I would think. It's going to be another close game, but I think they're going to lose at Duke. I think Duke's going to be very motivated. Again, like Robert said, the Cameron Indoor Stadium atmosphere is going to be unbelievably off the charts. But again, there's no shame in losing to Duke at Duke. And SU fans need to realize that it isn't about February, it's about March. And that's what you're aiming for. So don't let one loss get you down. Don't let, if they're not number one on next week, which they shouldn't be probably because they did lose, don't worry about it. This isn't the end of the world. Let's be concerned for March. That's what you care about.
Yeah.
All right. Our next topic, unless you want to say anything else about Syracuse.
No,
Okay.
I think I said it all
Okay.
about Cuse.
Our next
For this
topic
week, anyway.
is one that's near and dear to my heart, is the Miami Dolphins.
Your
bullying
Miami Dolphins.
Jonathan Martin, Richie Incognito scandal, the latest chapter, yes.
And as it turns out, there's more characters involved in
Yeah,
this.
there's more character, and people lost their jobs this week, which one of them did deserve to lose his job, and that's Jim Turner, the offensive line coach. But you could say yes, he should be fired because he condoned some of this activity and he contributed to it in certain ways. The truth of the matter is, Dolphins gave up a team record of sacks last season. I think it was about 68 when it was all said and done. And their offensive line blocking was horrible. And you could say that maybe some of this had to do with the issues, the personalities and everything. But if you're a position coach and your team is giving up a franchise record amount of sacks, I think you deserve to lose your job, unfortunately. The other person who got fired was Kevin O'Neill, the Dolphins' longtime trainer. He was hired by Jimmy Johnson back in '96. That's how long he goes back. And I was saying to Robert earlier is that they actually brought him to Indianapolis for the Combine. He was in a seminar of other NFL trainers talking about how to handle situations like this, and he got pulled out where they fired him. Good timing, Miami. Really good timing. But the thing is, the Wells report's out. We've had a chance to digest it. It's as bad as we thought it was going to be. And I'm not going to say that Dolphins are exclusively the only team where these types of things happen. I think you have this type of, I won't say trash talking, but these conversations, these vulgar, profane conversations at any NFL team, okay? But it obviously went much worse. It was much worse here. And yes, Incognito gone, Martin gone, absolutely. Turner gone. The person that I am just amazed still has a job is Dolphins head coach Joe Philbin. Look, this is a guy, if you watched Hard Knocks, this guy wasn't missing anything, okay? If someone left a piece of paper on the locker room floor, he was on him to pick it up. He was that attentive to detail, but he didn't know what was going on with Incognito and Martin and the rest of this stuff. I find it hard to believe. Maybe it's true. I find it hard to believe, though. But irregardless, you're the captain of the ship, wherever you want to call it. You need to take responsibility for this. And if you want to say, going on, we're going to be more vigilant and whatever, that's okay. But the thing is, this happened on your watch, okay? But the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, just does not want to do anything. He loves Joe Philbin, respects him and everything. But I'll tell you this, Joe, the pressure's on. You better win this year. Simple as that. You better make the playoffs. It's as simple as that. And I'm sure you're a good guy. Personally, off the field, you're a good guy, a good person, okay? But as a football coach, I've got some bones to pick with you. And again, I don't know how you did not know this was going on. I really don't know. You really did not have your locker room's pulse if you did not know that these things were going on. And, you're getting a second chance here. And for all we know, maybe the NFL may even suspend you for a while. I still think that could happen. The NFL should levy some type of penalty on the Dolphins franchise, whether it's losing a draft choice, suspending a coach, suspending somebody else, players. Mike Pouncey could be suspended. But something needs to happen. And my feeling is if Joe Philbin does not make the playoffs, or they get off to a slow start, or just some of this stuff continues to happen, he's gone. And that's it. That's really it. End of story. That's what deserves to happen to him.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to add to that other than I think the NFL with what transpired with the Dolphins this year, and of course the possibility of Michael Sam coming into the league. I think that they are really, going to focus on making these locker rooms, a more professional environment, like a traditional work environment, because, there's conduct that, is okay. We joke around at the
Right.
office, a lot of people do, and, there's jokes and there's, conversation, and, you might get distracted from your actual duties for a few minutes because you're in conversation or whatever.
But there's a line.
But there is a line, and the thing in the Dolphins' case is that line was crossed over and over again.
No, it was way overcrossed.
And it just can't stand. And this report really highlighted that, and I think it showed that changes need to be made, and it's kind of a warning for other teams out there that look, you shouldn't let it get this bad. Whether they think of this or not, it certainly proved to be at least somewhat of a distraction for the Dolphins this year, and it really made them look bad in terms of if you look at the entire NFL picture. So, hopefully everyone can learn from this, move on, and really develop plans going forward to make these teams a little bit better in terms of atmosphere for their employees, not just the players, but for the people who work behind the scenes too.
Yeah, I mean, there was an assistant trainer for the Dolphins who is of Japanese descent, and he was ridiculed with not anti-Asian, but just Asian jokes and mock accents and different things, and it's just absolutely disgusting. And I don't know how these types of things can happen. It's just, you don't do those types of things. But I think the Dolphins locker room, it was a place where these players felt that they could get away with it. That they're NFL players, they're untouchable. And I think we see some of this outside of the locker room. Whether it's an NFL player who's pulled over for speeding, and the officer, says, how fast you're going, and the NFL player will say, well, do you know who I am? Mm-hmm. We see this a lot, with those types of things where they feel they're untouchable, that they're above everybody else, and these players felt that they could do these things, say these things, and get away with it because, hey, we're NFL players. But it's wrong. It needs to stop. The Dolphins really, again, my prediction is that Philbin will be fired after this season, and I think they're going to clean house, and I think that you're going to see a lot of changes, and hopefully for the better, because it's Dolphin fans, and I've been one for more than 40 years now, for a little over 40 years. It's sad because we remember how great this franchise was back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s under Don Shula. And it just pains us to see, not that we're just losing, but we're just a national joke. And that we're not doing things. It's one thing to lose with dignity. But if you're going to lose, and you're going to lose being scumbags, that's just horrible. So, all right, we got one more topic, right?
Let's wrap it up, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that's my Olympic theme. Not that good. As we are recording this, the women's hockey game between U.S. and Canada ended a couple hours ago, and I feel bad for the American women, but man, how do you blow a 2-goal lead with 3 minutes left? I mean, really? Oh,
yeah,
ouch.
That was painful.
I mean,
it wasn't.
I watched it, and
it wasn't the way you want to close out the game.
Were they tentative? I don't know. I mean, they.
Well, I think one aspect of sports, and this is the case in hockey with some teams, I think in that situation, the the strategy is to get a little bit more conservative, kind of sit back, let things come to you, play defense, and try to keep the puck out of the net. And in this case, you have a very good, very aggressive Canadian team who just came at them in the final few minutes and, scored 2, sent the game to overtime, and, and won it from there. And hey, all credit to the Canadians,
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, to battle back like that, certainly when you look at the U.S. side, you kind of question the strategy. That gets more into coaching, I think, than the players. But, at the same time, you don't want to take anything away from Canada because this has been, they really have been, the United States is number 2. These are the 2 best women's hockey teams in the world, but Canada has been a clear number 1 team for over a decade now. And so this is a case where the the U.S. again, they had a chance to win it, and unfortunately they didn't hold them off. They played 57 good minutes, and then after that it just all fell apart. It's unfortunate, but Canada deserves a lot of credit.
It's just when they scored that first goal, I said, "Uh-oh, they're going to tie it.
Yeah.
I know they're going to tie it." And then when they tied it, I said, "They're going to lose." I just had a hunch. You just had that feeling of dread that here we go. You're cruising along. You're looking great, and I don't want to say they played tentative or they weren't aggressive or it just. Again, I think it was more Canada just literally flipping the switch and saying, "All right, we're running out of time. We got to do something."
Yeah,
when they went all out. Yeah. But what really hurts you though is that empty net with about a minute left and the puck clangs off the pipe.
Yeah. And
literally you're talking maybe a couple inches
if
to
that.
the right.
Yeah. That.
And the U.S. wins that gold medal.
Yeah. It's
that's how close.
But that's sports.
I mean, that is sports. I know.
It all comes down, you go back to any given Sunday, game of inches.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be said for hockey, it can be said for baseball, it can be said for basketball. I mean, that's what it comes down to, an inch there, a foot here, that's sports, that's the beauty of it, and sometimes it can be painful.
But we can get revenge, though. The men, our American hockey team, the men, they play Canada tomorrow at noon. That's Friday at noon Eastern time.
Men's hockey.
Men's hockey, and it's a semifinal. Not for the gold, but it's for the semifinal. But this is going to be a great game. The U.S. beat Canada earlier in the tournament, I believe, in the men.
No, that was they beat Russia.
Oh, they beat Russia. I'm sorry, they beat Russia. My bad. See, Robert's the hockey guy. So
well, this is a rematch, of course, of the 2010 gold medal game.
Yes, which went, I believe it went overtime, and Sidney Crosby scored in the game.
Yep.
See, I do remember 4 years ago.
That was, of course, in Vancouver, so Canada won in their homeland. And here they are again, meeting in the semifinals, playing for the right to play in the gold medal game. What's interesting here, the U.S. and Canada, of course, have great players, great NHL players. The United States, of course, has Patrick Kane, and you look at that and you have Jonathan Quick, and backing him up is Sabres goalie Ryan Miller, and just loaded on on both sides. These rosters are great, but to me, one of the great things here is what's going on the other side with Sweden and Finland. There's two great goalies over there, a better matchup, I think, than what the U.S. and Canada offer. Henrik Lundqvist for the Swedes, and then for the Finland team, Tuukka Rask, who plays for Boston. And one thing that is worth pointing out is that Finland, since 1994, has the most medals in men's hockey.
I did not know that.
You think about when you think about medals in hockey, they're like, oh, Canada, Russia, maybe the United States, Czech Republic. No, it's Finland, and here's the Finns, one game away from playing in the gold medal game. So, I think this is it's going to be a fun couple of days here because there's I think you really have here the four best countries in terms of hockey, at least right now in the world, and they're going to be playing. These are the teams that'll be playing your gold medal game, the bronze medal game, and I think it'll be a few good days of hockey here.
Yeah, I wonder if the U.S., because the pressure isn't on them, it is in Canada. I mean, obviously in Canada, this is the biggest thing right now. I mean, for their hockey
Not
team.
only for that, but they're defending their crown
right.
too.
Is there pressure on Canada? Will it affect them? And the United States, I mean, they got to be thinking like, hey, loose, no pressure. Go out there, play our game, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, we want the U.S. to win. It'd be great. I'm going to be watching. It's a noon start, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'll be able to watch it before I come in here. And I like the U.S. to win this game 3-2. That's my prediction. 3-2 U.S.
I'm going to take Canada.
Oh!
I'm going to take Canada.
Traitor.
I think it'll be an overtime game, though. It'll be similar to today's women's game. I think it'll go to overtime. It could be a low-scoring game, maybe 3-2, 2-1. But, I think that's...
Like the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Overtime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really think that this, they really got the four best teams. Now, people talk about Russia.
Right.
And, I think that, in a lot of cases there, they were a bit overrated. I don't think that they had, I think they had a little bit, you look at teams and, Herb Brooks looked at it, you want the best team.
Right.
You don't want the best collection of players. And Russia had great players, but they didn't have the best team. And that was evident when they played Finland.
Yeah.
So
Chemistry is so important.
yeah, and so I think, you really do have the 4 best teams left, and it's going to be a fun few days for hockey. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite parts of the Olympics.
Anything else you want to add, Robert?
No, I think I'm done.
I guess we'll wrap it up for our second week here, and we thank you folks for watching. We appreciate it. Don't forget to follow Robert on Twitter at Robert Harding,
That's right.
and me on Twitter at SCIRIA, C Shira. And we appreciate you guys
This
watching.
guy's trying to get 100 followers.
I know, I'm one short. I'm
He's
only
one short.
one short, so please
Help
follow
him
me
out.
on Twitter. Get me over 100. I want to catch up to this guy. No, it won't happen. This guy's got thousands of Twitter followers. I could probably remember all the names of my Twitter followers, and he's got so many. But anyways, it's all in fun, folks. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take care.